Join us as we dispel myth from mystery and decode the Baqtun.
Welcome to Newrealities. I'm Alan Steinfeld, and this program is about the evolution of consciousness. And part of that is understanding ancient civilizations, and particularly in the last few years, the Mayan civilization has been key in opening a doorway to a new possible future that I think the Mayans encoded within their sacred calendars. And that's why I'm interviewing tonight a woman who's made probably the best film on the Mayan calendar system called Decoding Baqtun. I'm talking to Elizabeth Terriat. Thank you for being here today. And this is a beautiful film.
Thank you.
What if everything we knew about time were flawed? And most of what we knew about the Mayan calendar was a lie. Join us on an epic journey through the jungles of the Yucatan Peninsula to uncover the secrets of more than just the end of time, but revelations of the beginning of a story in which you have a role.
Decoding Baqtun, you're the executive producer.
Yes.
And the writer and the star in a way.
I think the Mayans and their science are the stars. I'm merely just putting it together and presenting it in a way that it's acceptably intelligent to understand the complexity of the Mayan studies.
Well, I was interested in the Mayan studies since I met Jose Arguelles in 1986, where he talked about the harmonic convergence, and then he talked about the 2012, and of course everyone was obsessed with 2012. Is that what got you into this?
Well, I think so, because it was this big end of the world theory, and then what we discovered that really the calendar where they're counting from and where it ends had no correlation to the end date claimed to be December 2112. So Mayan calendar started August 11th of 3113 BC, and it ends on August 16th. So one would say, why doesn't it end on the same date? Well, there are reasons why, because as you will see in the film, there is always the 5-day rest period that it's observed for every period of time and every cycle that ends. Which brings us to their smarts and recognition that cycles have to have a conclusion and an end.
Why did they track these huge cycles, 100,000-year cycles in some of the cases?
Because they understood that history repeats itself. And I think that's where we, us, already have come up with this saying, history repeats itself. And they're right. It does. And it repeats again and again. The difference is it repeats itself from a different place because universe expands without stopping. We're in a constant vortex. So we're becoming larger. Like you look back 100 years ago, people were smaller. So we expand ourselves, our planet, and distance between us. So the energetics change. But the actual coding of what will happen does not.
So the time frame changes, but the situations or the emotional flavor.
Exactly.
Which is why people use astrology.
Right, because they found out that by studying astrology and planets showing up at a certain time of the day, and we in the film referred to Venus in the morning, they understood that when that planet shows up, there's trouble ahead. And they started then to see how they can foresee that and kind of prepare themselves smartly for what's coming. There are wars, problems within other villages or kingdoms, or droughts, famine, extreme floods. So there was always a question, what kind of problem is ahead? And they were able to decode that by studying the planetary alignments, its influences, the events that would reoccur again and again in a very systematic way, the only difference was if they knew what's coming, they were able to prepare so that the outcome was less severe.
Right. So how many different calendars did they have? We have one. Maybe we count the full moon cycle. But how many did they have?
They had three. Three primary calendars,
And
where one of them is reflective on creation of life, and it encompasses 260 days.
Which is the amount of time a child develops in the womb.
Precisely.
And that's their calendar of 260.
The smallest one of the
Yeah,
260.
and then there's
there is the solar agricultural calendar that addresses all the seasons' development and birth of vegetation. So the planetary vegetation operates on 365 calendar.
That's sort of the birthing of the Earth cycle.
Precisely.
So it's the human and the Earth, and then the sun cycle, in a sense.
So the first one is the moon, and the other one is the solar. And the third one is a cycle that encompasses 52 rotation of one and 73 of another. So
50 rotations of like the
sun and the moon to come back to the same position.
Oh, so it takes those two calendars synced up. Takes how many years to sync up? Is that like
52 turns of 72 turns of one, and I believe, 52 turns of one, and I think 73 of another. I'm trying to be exact because there's a lot of numbers.
I know.
And once they repeat that many rotations, they come back to the same position on the overall calendar that we call cartoons, which is thousands of years and again and again. Right. Cartoons are greater even than Baqtuns.
Oh, cartoons. How long is a Baqtun?
It's 144,000 years.
The cartoons are that long, and
they go beyond like 8,000.
144,000 years is a cartoon.
Baqtun.
A Baqtun.
That's what we just ended right now.
We ended one long cycle of a Baqtun. We just ended 140 in 2012 or whenever.
We actually ended it on August 16th, 2014.
Oh.
So the 2112 was a construct of marketing. Somebody came out with it. They decided it was a great idea. There was so little information coming out from Mayans that is accurate. Mayans have been exploited as to what they say and what it is, because by not knowing, it created greater following and a greater fear, and people respond to fear, unfortunately. And by having that window of opportunity, created great marketing moment, and I hate to say it because some people actually committed suicide out of fear of that day.
I know. It wasn't the
Awful.
end of anything, actually. You know, it's a wheel. So where it ends, there's a new beginning.
Precisely.
I mean, considering it was 144,000 years, being off by 2 years or however they count, is not bad for a long estimation.
Well, that depends, because the Mayans create a calendar that is far more accurate than the calendar that NASA has, by their own admission. There have never been adjustment made to Mayan calendar.
They didn't need to. They were much more accurate with their...
They are accurate. That's the difference. All the other calendars that were created by men, so to speak, has gone through adjustments that we address in the film in a long version, because there is also a short version for television that it's 59 minutes, and the one in digital format is full feature format, full feature film.
How long is the
83.
83 minutes, and it's a beautiful Blu-ray, very highly watchable, very clear, very well shot. It's a well-produced film. I know you put a lot of time, effort. What, 3 years, 4 years?
Almost 5, yeah.
5 years, and this is a trilogy.
Yes.
So let's talk about the trilogy. The first part is Decoding Baqtun, where you go through the calendars, and you're going to be releasing the next two, which have to do with what?
The second one is the power of intention. In the process of filming the first one, I recognized how much power we personally have in our lives, that a lot of it is predestined. You can call it DNA coding. But I also realized that there is something that is called DNA coding of intentions. So I decided to dive further into it, and I went back interviewing more Mayans and researching more specialists in that area. And what that I discovered was that we truly have a power in our life, power of choice, that no matter what it is, we are given the choice. And it's called moment of bifurcation. Bifurcation, where this is what it's given and this is what it's offered. And at that point, we actually have a choice which way we go. It's a fork in the road.
Will we act or not? Is that what you're saying? We have a choice to act or not act.
Not acting is still a choice.
Oh, I see.
So it's really the choice either what to do. And that will determine what will happen further down the road. And the beauty of this intricate process is that the minute you make the decision based on information you have at the time or emotional state of mind, the minute you activate that intention, you're really out of control until you arrive to your destination. And then the journey that happens during that time is the fascinating part that I hope to show in the film. What happens? It's a true roller coaster.
What happens in as far as
on the journey of your intention?
Okay.
I mean, be careful what you wish for.
Right. But as far as but that's true of everything. So how does that relate specifically to a Mayan point
Because
of view?
Mayans have found out how this overlaps with the cycles of universe as well, and how when you place your intention, it creates a different outcome, and how you charge your intention, it creates different outcome. So you may wish for things, but there is an additional layer of the chart you place and when you place them, because from the first film, you're going to learn that every day has a purpose and has a job. And if you miss a day, you're going to have to wait 259 days to come back to it.
Oh, I see. So you learn that from the Mayans. There's a certain moment to place a certain intention.
Exactly.
And that's what the second film will be,
Yes.
Mayan intention. Do you call
Yes.
it that? Or-
Power of the intention.
And and then the third film.
The third film is really taking the teachings of the first two and placing them on an example way as to how things play out in today's society, given our social moral values, given our economic status, given our technology, our legal systems, incorporating that with international laws and cooperation between them. How does this play out on a global
Today's
arena?
global scale.
Today's global arena.
So you take the Mayan culture, their analysis of history,
Precisely.
and you lay that over today's modern times. And what did you discover as a little preview?
Well, we discovered that as we were going through the calendars, that certain areas of the time are more saturated with open-mindedness, or ostracizing of leaders, or quick appearances and disappearances of them, where we choose to believe in things for no apparent reason. I'm sure you recall the older days where being a scientist was a bad thing, and people would get burned at stake.
Right.
Now, being a scientist and developing new technology is an amazing thing. Look at Silicon Valley, how it develops our biology.
Of course. So if we overlay the Mayans, cosmology and their predictions over today's times, we get these advances in science and technology. But what else do we see as far as...
What else do we see is that right now we are at a state where mind is the most one to be inclined to be developed. So media and technology and biotech. The combination of these three are very tightly together, because more technology and biotech is being developed and more media is being involved with it. So media has a lot of power.
Yeah, but how does that show up in the Mayans here? How do you translate whatever they showed to biotech? Because obviously it didn't have biotech, but how do you decipher that?
They actually had hospitals.
They did?
Yes. They were the first ones to have aqueducts. They were underground, so they were not discovered right away, and everybody thinks Romans did.
So they had a technology, you're saying?
Absolutely.
Well, obviously they built those amazing temples.
Right.
They had
and
something.
They had something, and when you look on the stones have laser cuts. What we consider now, it's a power of light, laser cuts. They're not chiseled, they're not hand buffed.
How did they cut them?
was laser.
What
They were
kind- how
able
they-
to harness the sunlight.
Really?
Mhm.
And they were able to cut the stone with sunlight laser technology
That's what it appears to be.
that we still haven't discovered?
No, we have it. We have laser technology. It's being
Wow.
used right now in medicine
But we
to
don't
go
have-
inside of the body without cutting the surface. Yes,
But we
we're
don't
getting
have the
better at it.
technology, though, that the Mayans had. We have yet to discover how they harness their lasers because, you know, they didn't have electricity. They didn't have, although,
They had power from water,
Mm-hmm.
wind, and light.
I mean, they did have an incredible technology, I will say, because one of the most amazing experience I had was being in Chichen Itza, looking at what is the Kukulkan pyramid,
Yes.
and watching the sun set at the spring equinox. And
Incredible. The
when
snake.
it sets, there's a body of the serpent that actually descends into
Yes.
the earth. And when I was there, it was like partly cloudy, the sun would go in and out, so you get this like cinematic motion of
incredible.
this light descending into the earth, and I just had chills watching that. It was
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yes.
Because this particular area, it's what I call the placement of biological clock. Around it for 3 miles, it's absolutely perfect surface, even down to a perfect even level around that settlement for the purposes of creating shadows. The shadows were natural clocks of what to do, what not to do, and what's really happening between the earth
yeah.
for people and the cosmos. That's why we have all 4 equinox, the spring, summer, autumn, and winter, showing up very clearly through the snake going down
Or coming up.
or
yeah.
coming up.
Yes.
And it talks about what we should do. And that particular pyramid, as the sun rises and sun sets, tells us when to be outside and when to be inside.
Oh, so the snake descending into the earth is a time to plant. It's time for fertilization, and
Then the harvest is on. When it comes up, it's the harvest time.
that's right. I guess, although I haven't seen it, on the autumn equinox, the sunrise shows the image of the snake ascending the pyramid.
Correct. Because that's when the earth is giving and we collect. And then in the winter it goes down again because it's time to go into what we call our homes and spend and tend to our families, have longer periods of time. And that's when most children are created because of proximity and safety of home. And that's actually when our fertility is at its best,
Inside, in the winter.
in the winter.
So
Precisely.
the children can be born then.
Of the family and not outside of the family. It's kind of assurance of our continuity.
But if the Mayans had such long counts of their cycles, Katuns, 144,000 years, is there a fractal element? So they're counting these large cycles. So there's how many Baqtuns in a Katun?
13.
13. So does each Baqtun, it has its mini cycles, but does each Baqtun also replicate the cycles, the the movement, certain times, certain ages?
Each of them, yes.
Yeah, that's what I want to
exactly.
find out.
What they bring along with its repetitive nature, again, is what we call the history repeats itself. That's where you get the epochs, what we call. And they bring tendencies.
Right. Within the larger cycles.
Precisely. They also have like the days of the smaller one that are good for things. So there is that tendency or energetic prompting. It's no different than you're going to a disco and you will dance disco, or going to a waltz studio and dance waltz. It's the same thing where it prompts your body to do certain thing in a harmonic way. Because once you understand what's coming ahead of you, you can kind of embrace it and say, okay, I know I might be a little bit agitated. I know people might be agitated. So instead of having a coffee, how about I'm going to have something more benign, something that will allow me to stay focused.
So it's allowing yourself to act within...
Proactive.
But within the cycles of time that we're living in, so we can be the most harmonious.
That's the
with
idea.
these cycles. And in the next program we'll talk about the internal cycles and acting harmonious in there.
Because all of them are being transmitted into our daily function. So it comes from the big cycles of, okay, we are going through era of abundance. We are going through era of wars. We are going through eras of dark ages or renaissance. All of them are influences on a larger scale where more people than not are influenced by it. And this is why, you know, how all of a sudden so-and-so copied me or so-and-so did this. No, it became a consciousness.
Yes.
It became a present consciousness where people are able to be under influence of that harmonic vibration where they feel peace. Or they think maybe that next step would be a logical step to go.
But also the cycles of the ages now are very important. But the thing is, we human beings are the place where the outer and the inner cycles meet. And how do we live the most consciously in our life is sort of the crisis we're at now on our history.
I believe we are, because we are moving very fast. We need to be open-minded as to the evolution and development of our own creation that comes from our mind, because whatever you think of, it already exists.
I also want to introduce you to Sergio Magana, who's a Mexican shaman who talks about the cycles of the sun. And we're coming into the age of the sixth sun. He's quite brilliant. He's one of the timekeepers of the Toltec tradition. So
that's very exciting.
Yeah, there's so much you can do in here. But before we end, I want to know about the Mayans themselves, because you spent a lot of time down there. What are they like? What's their culture? How are they different than other native peoples?
You know, my experience with them was very humbling in a sense that you arrive, you don't know what to expect, because before I realized that I actually can be around them, there was this sense of how different are they, how many are in existence, how sincere they are with sharing of their knowledge, because that was the greatest concern of how sincere they are with sharing. And at the end of the film, I'm saying you're in the presence of people that know why you're here. And I
they
meant
knew
it.
Why you were there.
That's right. Before I arrived, my line producer was told that I was arriving, and my name was never mentioned. Actually, the fact I was executive producer was apparently a secret. And so they said, no, there is that woman. And
they knew about you.
They knew about me. They had talismans ready for me. That's how much they knew about me.
Aborigines are like that too, yes.
So by the time I arrived, it was more like, hi. And I had to get used to the fact that they know what you feel, they know what you think, and actually relaxed me, because you can communicate with them through thinking. And that's why the power of intention became so evident, that it's how we are going to communicate from now on, because it's going back to the primal, how animals communicate. You can pass each other in the jungle, and I had this experience after hours. I don't know if I'm reckless or simply secure in nature. Ended up walking on the outside of the film area, and there were black panthers, and there are panthers.
Are there still black panthers there?
Absolutely. They're absolutely beautiful, with beautiful
You've
green
seen
eyes.
them?
Yes.
In the wild?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, in that
Realize you
area.
could see black
Sure,
panthers there.
absolutely. There's a lot of wild things, like wild monkeys. Actually, I was more concerned with wild monkeys than wild panthers. I don't know why. And they follow you because they're curious about you. And there is that moment where you can connect. You look each other eyes, and
So
you
the
know
Black
if they
Panther-
want to kill you or they just watch you.
I guess they didn't want to kill you at this
I'm
point.
still here. It's shocking. But the idea is that there is that moment of exchanging of your intent. And that's how they communicate. They never lost it. They never gave it up. They don't need a fax. They don't need an email. They know what's impending.
The shamans down there, I'm interested in what was the...
They're very powerful.
Who did you meet? Which shaman?
Oh, God. There was too many to mention, and most of them are in the film. There was probably 15.
But who stands out for you?
Well, Apolinario was a timekeeper.
Okay.
So I spent most time with him because my film was about timekeeping and understanding why they even cared to keep it. So he explained to me that the reason why they put so much time and effort and patience is because they realized by understanding time and its purpose, they understood how to improve our lives. So that was the reason why they watched it. And they would have a pool of water, And that's where universe would put all the stars, and they would read it from the reflection of them,
Oh, yeah.
not looking up at the sky.
That was an interesting point in the movie. They would be able to track the stars' movement better by looking down, as opposed to, looking,
Right.
and also probably making notes about whatever they need.
Well, it's easier to connect the dots when it's in a smaller body of.
Oh, so they take a still
Yes.
pool, they'd
Yes.
make it still, and I've seen that actually.
And most of them are empty now, but when they fall, you have a most perfect.
I have to say, I was
reflection.
on a little bit of peyote, and I looked down at this lake, and the stars were reflected in this lake. It's like, oh my God, I've never noticed that how clearly the stars can be reflected in the water. So that was their system of tracking.
That was the system. That was their telescope. They basically had a beautiful, what we would call a pond, but well-controlled pond. So there was no wave. There were no other sources coming in and out. The water was filled. There was no movement to the water in order to be a perfect reflection. That was their lens.
Wow. That's new. That was new for me. I didn't realize that. Elizabeth, you've done something very beautiful here. Decoding Baqtun, Mayan Revelations, Part 1 in the series. And how do people get in touch with you in the film?
Well, they can find us on the website. They can contact us on the website, on the Baqtun website, and also on my personal one, www.elizabethterrier.com, and you can find more about what I've been able to create based on the knowledge I obtained from the Mayans.
Great.
Thank
This is
you.
Alan Steinfeld with Elizabeth Terriot, and I totally recommend this movie because it's a revelation of the sciences that now have been integrated into our Western culture, so we can start to use this to move into a more harmonious future. So thanks for watching today. I'm Alan Steinfeld, and if you want to reach me, go to my website, Newrealities.com.
Cuando hay un cambio de tiempo, lo que es más tremendo es cómo comenzar el otro.
But revelations of the beginning of a story in which you have a role. Join us as we dispel myth from mystery and decode the Baqtun.